Good afternoon, students. Welcome back to Fun Scholar classes. As in this lecture series, we know that we are discussing regarding the acids, bases, and salts, the three huge and major groups of chemical components, right? So, in these lecture series, we have earlier already discussed regarding the basic characteristics of acids as well as its chemically opposite component, which is bases, right? And in that discussion we have already mentioned this another group name, which is salts, and we have already mentioned another very important term, which is neutralization, right? So whenever we have already learned in our just previous video that neutralization is one such reaction which happens between the acid group and base group, and it creates, most usually it's always will be able to create a particular type of salt and water, and in some reaction it will also generate any particular types of gas as well. Okay, so as example we have already said that some heat is going to be evolved because neutralization reaction is mostly exothermic reaction, right? And as we already know ki acid plus base will be creating the water and salt, right? So and we have already discussed regarding that an example where NaOH plus HCl, which are both NaOH, sodium hydroxide. We have already discussed that sodium hydroxide is one of the most strongest bases out there, right? And so is hydrochloric acid. It is also the strongest acid, and they both react with each other and they are creating the salt and water, right? So this is what a neutralization reaction looks like. Now I have also asked some questions that if you know some other examples of neutralization reaction, so let me know. Do you can you remember any popular neutralization reaction? Okay, let me give some hints. Definitely, there are many daily life applications of neutralization reaction that we will be discussing by watching videos as well as by discussing each slides. Okay, so we will be discussing some of the very important applications of neutralization effect. But before going to that portion, let me give you one hint about another popular neutralization reaction, which is like if you react the baking soda and acetic acid. Okay, so in our previous discussion we got to already know, right, that acetic acid is the vinegar is nothing but the aqueous solution of acetic acid, right? So acetic acid is actually falling under the group of acid. It is going to fall in organic acid. So if you mix the acetic acid, little bit of acetic acid you take with you, and you mix a little bit of baking soda is consisting another very important base, which is sodium hydrogen carbonate, right? So what will happen? So this is a very easy neutralization process. Do you think that you can do it by yourself and try this experiment in your kitchen as well? Okay, let's see what can happen from the reaction. Okay. Okay. So what we first took the baking soda, right? And here we are mixing, actually we are taking the baking soda and we are mixing the baking soda with the vinegar is acetic acid, which is CH3COOH, right? Now we will see what exactly will happen. Okay, this is vinegar. What we can expect? We can definitely expect baking soda is sodium hydrogen carbonate, right? So we can definitely expect that there will be water and salt. Okay, so let's see what salt we can get from here. Okay, what do you think that this is? Okay, let me see कि what else going to be. Definitely there will be water. ठीक है, अगर water जा रहा है तो there is this H and this OH has gone, right? This CH3 CO and Na is like another place. ठीक है, so there will be another salt, right? Here will be some sodium acetate. तो एसिटिक एसिड से टूटा हुआ है तो डेफिनेटली, सो लेट मी फ्रेशन अप फॉर यू. ठीक है, ये क्या होता है, बेकिंग एसिड है. ठीक है, बेकिंग एसिड, बेकिंग सोडा है. बेकिंग सोडा में आपका क्या जाएगा, what will be like you will be mixing the baking soda with the vinegar, right? And what can you expect from it? You can expect from it is one salt, right? And water, right, which is H2O. Other than this, there is this one type of phase that you will be noticing in from this experiment. So if you ever try to mix some baking soda in the vinegar, you will find the fizz is coming out, right? So what do you think that for which particular gas, I am here you giving you a clue that there will be a particular gas that will be generating from this reaction. Okay, so take a moment and think कि ये दोनों जिसका बेकिंग सोडा यानी कि सोडियम हाइड्रोजन कार्बोनेट एंड विनेगर दैट इज CH3COOH, राइट? तो ये जो विनेगर और बेकिंग सोडा है, यहां से मुझे सॉल्ट मिलेगा, वाटर मिलेगा और साथ में एक गैस मिलेगा. विच गैस कैन कम फ्रॉम इट? ओके, एक बार आप सोच लो, उसके बाद we will be writing the chemical formula and will understand how this neutralization reaction can create and also generate some kind of gas as well. So how, which gas going to be formed here? Here it will be the CO2 gas. ठीक है, so baking soda में what is the chemical formula of baking soda? It is sodium hydrogen carbonate, right? And vinegar it is CH3COOH, right? So what happened here? There is water and there is carbon dioxide. Now, can you tell me that what is the formula of this salt, particular salt going to be? So if this is the acetate, right? So I have already said that the salt going to be formed here is one type of acetate salt. Okay, so it will be sodium acetate. Okay, you can also write it here. Okay, so it will be sodium acetate and there will be CO2 from here and then there will be H2O. Okay, so that is another neutralization reaction that you can easily experiment in your home and you can see the production of another gas which is carbon dioxide. Okay, So we here in that particular reaction saw a particular type of salt, right? So salt, now if I ask you what is salt, so you will be answering me the salt, the definition of salt by the help of neutralization reaction itself, okay? So what is it? A salt is a substance formed by the reaction of an acid and with a base. So no matter which type of acid you mix with which type of base, it will always create a neutralization reaction, and it will definitely, as a byproduct, we will be getting a particular type of salt, okay? So in a way we can say that salt has two parents, which is an acid and a base. So whenever the acid and base are forming with each other, they are chemically cancelling each other out and creating the salt, okay? The salt is neither acid but basic, but it is itself a third group. But in that group also we can find acidic salt, we can find basic salt, as well as we can find neutral salt also, okay? The salts of hydrochloric acid are called chlorides, okay? Chlorides, just like NaCl. So it is ending with a chlorine, right? So that is why the salt that we are getting from here is actually chlorides. So from where we are getting NaCl salt? We are getting the NaCl salt when the HCl is being reacted with NaOH, which is sodium hydroxide, right? Then we were getting the NaCl, which is a chloride salt. The salt of sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid means which one? H2SO4, another strongest acid. This will give us the sulfates. Sulfates, okay? This salt will be the sulfates. Then there is this nitric acid, which is another popular strongest acid, which is nitric acid, right? So the salt of nitric acid are called nitrates. The salt of carbonic acids are going to be called as carbonates. Carbonates mean it will be ending with carbonate group, right? The salt of acetic acid are called acetates. The last example that I have given you with that baking soda and vinegar example, the salt they are forming are actually belonging from this group of salt, which is acetates, okay? So that is the rule. This is how from different types of acid different group of salt will be generated, okay? So just take a look from this slide, and then we will be discussing and moving forward to our next slides. Okay, so types of salt. I have already mentioned which type of particular which acid is reacting with particular which type of bases. On the basis of that, we can group the salt in main different groups, three different groups. Okay, first one, the salt is neutral salts. Okay, the salts formed by the neutralization process, of course, of a which is consisting a strong acid, which is like HCl. HCl, we already got to know that HCl is the strongest acid out there, right? With a very strong basis. So both are very strong here and equal are neutral salts. Are the neutral salts. The two examples of neutral salts are sodium chloride. We already know the reaction from where we are getting the sodium chloride, and sodium sulfate. Sodium sulfate is another salt which is a neutral salt. Okay, can you mention or can you write down the reaction, chemical reaction from where we are getting the sodium sulfate salt? This is something that I will be expecting from the comment section. Okay, then next let's move to the next part, next type of salt, the salt formed by the again neutralization process, okay, of a strong acid. Here the acid is strong, but unfortunately the base is weak. Okay, so the stronger portion is in acids, right? So these are forming acidic salts. These are forming acidic salts. The two examples of acidic salts are ammonium chloride. Ammonium chloride. Okay. So strong acid is actually reacting with a weak base. Okay. So they are forming ammonium chloride and ammonium sulfate. So ammonium sulfate is another weak base and strong acid reaction. From that reaction we got another salt, which is ammonium sulfate, right? Then the last type of salts formed by the neutralization of weak acids with strong bases. Here the ulta is happening, the opposite here is happening. Okay, the salts formed by the neutralization of weak acids with strong bases are basic salts. Okay, the two example of basic salts are sodium carbonate and sodium hydrogen carbonate. Okay, sodium carbonate and sodium hydrogen carbonate. So can you name two objects, two substances in our daily life that we already know, from in which we can find out the sodium carbonate and sodium hydrogen carbonate? I think it we already got to know कि baking soda में तो in the baking soda we will be getting the sodium hydrogen carbonate, right? But what about the sodium carbonate? In which substance can we get the sodium carbonate? Try to answer this question or try to think about this for some moment. Where in which substance can we find the sodium carbonate? It has its own nickname, you know, soda ash and anti-aging cream. या फिर there is aftershave. In those kind of mixture, we will be finding the sodium carbonate there. Okay, so just take a look of this slide and let's discuss the upcoming slides. Okay. So there is this question, explain why if we touch the test tube immediately after carrying out the neutralization reaction of an acid and base in it, it is found to be somewhat hot. Okay. So what is the reason? We have already discussed that neutralization reaction will always be producing heat because this is one type of exothermic reaction, right? And that is the, isn't that the reason why just after the reaction happened, if you touch the particular test tube, you will find this test tube a little hot, right? So let's see the answer. In neutralization reaction between an acid and a base, heat is always produced. Okay, the evolved heat raises the temperature of the reaction mixture, due to which the tube becomes hot, right? So if you have any more doubts regarding this particular concept of neutralization and the salts, let me know in the comment section. Okay, so now I have already mentioned that in our daily life there are many places where we are actually applying the neutralization reaction. So let's get introduced with some of those usage of neutralization reaction by watching this video. Okay.
In the previous video, we have seen how neutralization reactions are helpful in solving issues in industries and agriculture. But we have not yet come across neutralization reactions on or inside human body. Do we know of any examples? I'm sure you'll be able to recall once I mention them. Let us have a look at neutralization reactions dealing with the human body. What happens when a bee or an ant bites you? It pains, swells, and itches in the bitten area. And what does your mom do on seeing you in pain? She quietly applies some baking soda on the area that's stung or bitten. Ever wondered how you get relief on applying the magical medicine? Is it a neutralization reaction? Yes, indeed. Bee venom or ant venom mainly consists of formic acid. For now, let's just simply say it's an acid. And what is baking soda? We know it's sodium bicarbonate, which is simply a strong base. So, won't the reaction work in our favor? Of course it will. The base will neutralize the venom, which is why we feel calm on application of baking soda. Similarly, if you get a sting from a wasp, one would not opt for baking soda. She would instead apply some vinegar on the stung area. Vinegar is technically acetic acid. So, is it indicating that the venom of the wasp is alkaline in nature? Yes, the wasp venom being alkaline, it's neutralized by the vinegar. Lastly, the most common example to study neutralization in the human body is that of acidity and antacid consumption. We have always come across people complaining about acidity after consuming heavy and oily food. In such cases, they take an antacid. What is an antacid, by the way? Antacids are simply formulations which are highly alkaline by nature. So, how do they work when consumed? Our stomach cells secrete hydrochloric acid for the process of digestion. High acidity means the stomach secretes more hydrochloric acid than normal. This causes severe discomfort. So, in order to neutralize this acidity, the antacid, which is a compound possessing strong basic nature, is consumed. The neutralization reaction gives relief from the discomfort that we experience. This is how we encounter several neutralization reactions in our daily lives. Acids, bases, and salts all play a vital role in our lives in one or the other way.
So here in this video, we got to know regarding two remedies, mainly health hazards, right? If we are bitten with ant or bee and they just stung in that stung area, we feel a lot of irritation, right? So basically, they are actually injecting one type of particular acid in there. Okay. So what we are trying to get released, we are applying some kind of particular base, and that application of base is actually, after that application there is actually a neutralization reaction that is occurring at that stung area, and then we will be feeling the release from the irritation and all the sufferings, right? Same happens when it comes to acidity. Okay, let's discuss these two phenomena. So here in this slide, we can see when acidity strikes, a fairy reminder that your stomach is not a fan of the heat, right? Our stomach actually produces that strongest acid, right? The hydrochloric acid. So why does it produce this? This is actually helps us in the process of digestion. The gastric juice help us to break down the proteins that we are intaking with the food, right? And our normal diet. So that is why it is extremely important for our body to release the hydrochloric acid. But there are several reasons or several cases, in mostly for in the case of overeating, our body produces over excess hydrochloric acid. Now we already know that acid is corroding in nature, so definitely excess amount of hydrochloric acid will create irritation and uneasiness and problems in your stomach. Okay, so at that place, to get relief from those irritation, what do? We actually take some medicines. Okay, so whenever you say that I might have a stomach ache due to acidity, the term acidity, why it is said as acidity? Because it is the entire irritation is started due to the due to the production of the excess amount of acid, which is hydrochloric acid, right? So our stomach produces hydrochloric acid, which helps in digestion. Sometimes excess of hydrochloric acid is produced in the stomach due to various reasons. The causes which causes indigestion, okay, which produces pain, extreme pain and irritation. In order to get relief of this indigestion and get rid of this pain, we take bases called antacids, right? So whenever we say that to our parents that we are having acidity problem, they give us a particular type of medicines which they are always say the antacids. So what is antacid? Antacids are actually antacids, right? So acid is present in there in your stomach. So these antacids are actually consisting group of mild bases. Okay, so antacids are nothing but group of mild bases. Antacids are group of mild bases react with the excess amount of acid in the stomach and it neutralizes it, right? It is cancelling each other out, so that, and after that, that pain and that irritation, you get the relief from that pain and irritation because of the neutralization reaction already occurred and it just cancelled out the excess amount of acids in your stomach, right? So that is the entire mechanism that occurs when there are this acidity problem is happening in your body. Okay, so here we got to understand one very major example, very important example of neutralization reaction working in our daily life, right? Let's move to the next reaction. Okay, so another antacid. Okay, so another antacid is baking soda. Now, if you do not have antacid medicine, what you can do, you can just make a solution, make a mixture of baking soda and just have it. Okay, we already got to know that baking soda consists of what type of base? Sodium hydrogen carbonate or sodium bicarbonate, which is one of the strongest bases out there, right? So baking soda contains the base called sodium hydrogen carbonate, which will definitely react with the normal reaction will happen, right? Which will react with the hydrochloric acid and create the salt and water. So it will, the excess amount of acid will be neutralized. Okay, milk of magnesia. So we already got introduced with this term milk of magnesia. What is milk of magnesia? Milk of magnesia is magnesium hydroxide. Okay, this is one of the mentionable example of bases. And what is milk of magnesia? It is the when it is mixed with water, it produces milk of magnesia, right? Okay, milk of magnesia. So milk of magnesia is magnesium hydroxide neutralizes the excess acids present in the stomach and cures the indigestion. Okay, so that is how the milk of magnesia or the baking soda, these two are both like very popular bases. They contains huge amount of bases and that particular base going to react with the excess amount of acid which has been produced in your body and it will neutralize and cancel the each other out and the problem will be solved. Okay, so that is one example of the neutralization effect, neutralization reaction. right? Then let's come to the second one, which is another health problem, health related problem. It is when is it a tiny pinch or a big buzz? Okay, so when they sting, okay, and oh boy, it really hurts, right? How do you feel when a honeybee stings you or ant bites? It's huge pain, right? So why this pain is happening? What happened? The sting of an ant contains an acid called the formic acid, the culprit, okay? The particular acid which is actually causing your pain and irritation after the ant bite and everything is actually formic acid. Okay, so when an ant stings or bite a person, it causes burning sensation, right? So burning sensation is happening because of the presence of formic acid, and we know that acid always shows its corroding nature, right? So that is why your skin is burning out there. Okay, so if an ant sting a person, then rubbing a mild base like baking soda solution is a very important way of getting relief from that burning sensation pain. Okay, why? Because baking soda definitely is a base and it consists calamine solution. Okay, so here this calamine solution is going to react with the formic acid and it will neutralize and cancel each other out, and it will give you the ultimate relief from that burning sensation. Okay, so baking soda solution or calamine solution neutralizes the acidic liquid injected by the ant and cancels its effect. Note that calamine solution. So from here many MCQs can come. Okay, so the base calamine solution contains a base called zinc carbonate. Mostly the calamine solution is nothing but it is a base. It is actually containing a base called zinc carbonate. Okay, just take a look of this slide and let me know if you have any doubt regarding these two applications of neutralization reaction. Okay, 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 let us discuss another two applications of neutralization reaction by watching this video. Let's watch it.
In the previous video, we saw the concept of neutralization. Can you tell me what exactly this reaction is? An acid and an alkali, when combined, give us salt and water, usually along with the liberation of heat. Is that correct? Absolutely. Neutralization reactions are not restricted to laboratories. They are a part of our everyday lives. Let's take simple examples to understand this. We know the fact that industries give out a lot of waste. Some of these are discharged in the nearby water bodies. Now, these wastes pose a great threat to the organisms that live in these water bodies. Most of the wastes are acidic in nature. So, what needs to be done? Should we stop disposing the wastes? But that cannot be an option. So, the only option we have is that of treating the wastes before disposal. The acidic waste can be treated with an alkali to neutralize it and then discharged into the water body. This renders the waste harmless for the life forms present in the water. Similar to this example, we have neutralization reactions that come to our rescue in the field of agriculture as well. We know that it's not possible for the crops to tolerate too acidic or too alkaline soil. The soil has to be somewhat neutral. However, adding a few chemicals as a part of usual agricultural practices leaves the soil either too acidic or very much basic. So how will the next set of crops grow? Well, not to worry. Here, depending upon what is the state of the soil, we can choose the remedy. If the soil is too acidic, usually quicklime, which is calcium oxide, or slate lime, which is calcium hydroxide, is added. These bases help in neutralizing the acidic soil. A similar approach is opted for basic soil. Organic compounds that release acids are added to basic soil. Neutralization reactions in these cases help in getting the soil back to favorable conditions for farming. Now, these were the examples used in industries and agriculture. What about the human body? Do we deal with neutralization reactions? Of course we do. Next, let us have a look at the neutralization reactions that we find inside or on the human body.
So in this video, they have already discussed two other usage of neutralization reaction. One in the soil treatment and another one is in factory, right? So let's start discussing the soil treatment first. So why soil need even treatment? Okay, so mostly India is a agricultural country, right? So most of the soils which are fertile lands, okay, so there we are growing crops every year, but with the advancement of science and other problems we are able to solve other problems to mitigate problems with pests and insects. The farmers use a lot of pesticides, then fertilizers. Okay, so most of the pesticides and fertilizers, sometimes they these fertilizers or these chemical components are overused on the soil, and after getting like a particular type of chemical components being added through the years, after years the soil becomes either way more acidic or way more basic. Why? Because the insecticides or the pesticides or the fertilizers are actually consisting different types of chemical components, among which many of are like many of these things are increasing the acidic nature in that soil, or it can do the opposite as well. It can increase the basic thing of the soil, right? So we have already got a knowledge regarding pH level and pH scale. From pH scale we can get the idea if our soil has become more acidic or basic. So after once we just determine that, we got to understand that what is the problem with the soil, we can solve it by easy application of the neutralization reaction. How we can solve the problem? The plants do not grow well if the soil is at a place or is too acidic or too basic, right? So in that case, the excessive use of chemical fertilizers and in the fields also make the soil too acidic. When the soil is too acidic, so we have figured it out that the problem with the soil is too acidic. Now we must have to add some type of base, right? The basic components, the basic chemical components, so that the neutralization reaction happens and the entire thing they cancels each other out and the soil becomes neutral again, right? So when the soil is too acidic, it is treated with bases such as quicklime, which is CaO or calcium oxide, and slaked lime, which is CaOH 2, right, which is calcium hydroxide, which neutralizes the excess acid present in the soil. Okay, so this is one of the very important treatment. When the soil is too acidic, then we will be applying the bases, such as the most popular bases that are mostly used in this purpose are quicklime, which is calcium oxide, or the slaked lime, which is calcium hydroxide. Okay, so let's see what we will do in the opposite case. Okay, if the soil is too basic, then decaying organic matter, just like the manure or compost needs to be added to it. Why? Because they are organic matter and they are going to give the organic acids, right? They are going to produce organic acid there. So the decaying organic matter release acids which neutralize the excess bases present in the soil and reduces the basic nature of the soil. So here we are solving the problem by using different chemical components as and initiating the neutralization reaction. Okay, so which particular chemical compound we are going to use in the soil is it is depending on if the soil is too acidic or too basic. Okay, so once we understand that what is the problem with the soil, then we can use these techniques to mitigate those problems. Okay, so if you have any doubts regarding this particular use of neutralization reaction, let me know in the comment section. Okay, and just take a look of this slide, and then we will be discussing the last application of the neutralization reaction. Okay. Okay, so factory waste treatments. So we have already heard a lot about the soil pollution, the air pollution, the water pollution, right? One of the very major reason of water pollution is factory waste, is mixing the factory waste with the river water, right? So to prevent those kind of problems, we need to first treatment those factory waste before releasing those in the environment. Okay, so the waste substance discharged by many factories contains acids. Okay, if this untreated means we haven't, like when the factory waste are released in the environment as it is raw, in a raw way, then it will definitely create a lot of hazards and problems, especially in the environmental, for the environmental pollution. Okay, so in that case we must need to be aware that we are actually treating those factory waste in certain way that they will not be able to create, it will not be able to create any kind of pollution. Okay, so if these untreated factory waste are discharged into water bodies like the lakes, ponds, rivers, etc., it will kill, definitely it will destroy the aquatic ecosystem in that particular river or lake. It will kill the fish and other aquatic organisms in the water bodies. The acidic factory waste should be treated with basic substances to neutralize them before discharging them into the water body. What needs to be done? First, we should take those factory waste, and before releasing it, the factory, what they need to do, they need to mix some of the basic substances with those waste, so that these basic substances can cancel out those acidic properties, and it can neutralize, so that after the release of those waste, it will not be able to create such a hazard in the water, right? It will not be as destroying as it will be if we do not if we only release the waste in a untreated way, right? So if you have any question regarding any other application of neutralization reaction, let me know. Okay, so before so this neutralization topic, we have already learned about this, and before going to another topic, let's just answer this question. Okay, so when an ant stings a person, it causes a burning pain. We have already discussed this particular topic in this lecture, right? which of the following should be rubbed on the stung area of the skin to get relief? What do you think? So, what do you think? Which particular chemical compound should be rubbed there? Okay, so the first option we have is lemon juice. Lemon juice consists citric acid, right? So it is itself one type of acid. So and stings because of the presence of particular acid, which is formic acid. So acid will not help to get me relieved, right? So next, C is vinegar solution. Vinegar solution, we already learned that vinegar is nothing but acetic acid. So that is also another acid. So acid, no way. And then formic acid solution. The ant sting itself is the formic acid. So if that is what is creating the pain and burning sensation, if I add some more, then it will only make my problem worse, right? So the B option is baking soda solution. Baking soda here among these options are the only option which belongs from the basic group. So the formic acid will be reacting with the formic acid will be reacting with the baking soda solution, and it will cancel each other's out, and the entire thing will be neutralized, and the stung area you will be getting the relief in the stung area. Okay, so the answer is baking soda solution. Other than these, we have only one topic left from this chapter, which is indicators, right? So we have already got to know that indicators are dyes which will indicate either the substance which we are talking about in falls under the basic or acid group. Okay, so there are different types of indicators that we will be discussing in our upcoming lecture. So till now, if you have any doubt, let me know in the comment section. Thank you for being patient. Let's meet with you in our upcoming lecture. Thank you.